1996 and 1954, my sister. There were a lot of promises made, some kept and some not kept. Those of you in this room know 1896, bless you. But one of the geniuses of Charles Hamilton Houston and Thurgood Marshall is that they had a long view approach, rooted in fundamental absolutes of equality. And they set a course that would not be determined by the ebbs and flow of an election. Charles Hamilton Houston in his writing said, my goal is to, regardless of who's in office, to develop social engineers that will be constantly working to reframe and restructure, irregardless of who's in a particular White House or State House. That's what Martin meant when he said, why we can't wait. We can't really wait. Remember, Kennedy had just got killed. Another guy was in the White House. Martin came to the conclusion, we can't build our hopes there. Martin understood that we have to have this persistent, long view. We have to have this dream approach, if you will. And I believe we need it now more than ever, because there are radical social metaphors which keep reminding us of the need for a movement and the need for a community committed to prophetic justice. Take, for example, what happened in Katrina. Katrina was not merely a Democrat or Republican failure. And if you frame it like that, you end up right back there one day. It was a failure to address the flood of poverty that existed before Katrina, and a failure to address the emergency that came with Katrina, and it requires a critique of Democrats and Republicans. Because what it is, it was a case analysis for social neglect. And to make it a Democrat or Republican issue is too small, it's too narrow. It is a failing of American society that has a disdain for the poor. That's what King meant when he said, why can't we wait? He said, we cannot wait on organizing a group of people that do not care who's in office, but have some absolutes, and based on that absolute, they continue to push the system, and they don't let anybody off the hook. Every now and then, Martin says you must have a group of people that take the prophetic stand. You can't separate it. You can't separate a constitutional education from health care. You can't separate health care from a living wage. You can't separate it. Won't play the game. They refuse to play the empire's game. Begin to demand a holistic approach. That's what King meant when he raised the question, why we can't wait. He was dealing with the difference between incremental change and fundamental change. And you need some folk that do the incremental stuff, but God knows you won't have the increments if you don't have some folk that want fundamental overhaul. Every now and then, you gotta have that let justice roll cry. You gotta have some folk that say, let's roll. Time for some justice here. You know, let in Hebrew is a strong word. It's a powerful word. You trace that word in Hebrew, let suggests demanding something beyond just getting a little piece of what you want. Let suggests a radical shift. Let suggests a shaking of the foundation. Let suggests a fundamental change in the system. When individuals begin to say let, that means that they have finally found out the reason that they're alive. And the reason that they're alive is to stand for what's right, and everybody else is on the wrong side. You watch out when folks start saying, let me have it, or let me have it. That means some change in the atmosphere. That's what King meant when he said, believe, Felicia. I still believe that war can be put down. I still believe that man does not have to slide down the slippery slope of violence. I still believe it. And I stop by to tell you today that this can only come when you understand something greater than an election, greater than a political election. This only happens when you understand that you have been elected by what King called the Zeitgeist, the spirit of the time, to be the bearers of radical hope and prophetic justice. Well, in this room today, we've seen a lot of opposition. Supreme Court trying to go backwards. Poverty among children at an all-time high. Racism feeling comfortable enough to show its ugly head in broad daylight. But I stop by to tell you the question is not what will injustice do. The question is, what will the believers in justice do? Whose report will you believe? I choose to believe the report of the Lord. Martin is dead. But the question is, will we declare like those folk at the University of Marshall that we are the Martins of our day? And the question for us is, can we organize another thundering herd? A herd that will form a fresh movement which will speak just truth to power and declare that once again in this country, justice must roll down like water and righteousness like a mighty fresh stream. There must be somebody that begins to chant, we are Martin. We are Martin. We are Martin. We are the people we've been looking for. It's our time. It's our time. We are Martin. We will not accept anything less than justice for all people. God bless you.